Do you know what she did?
What did she do?
This is so crazy. I don't know if you knew this. She disguised herself as a prostitute and approached Judah and got pregnant by him.
Okay, then. I think I did know that, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that not wild?
Yeah. What's up, everyone? It's Kait
and JJ.
Hey, guys. We're so happy you're here.
We love you.
I sound like I've been smoking because I was recovering from a cold. No, I don't smoke.
Babe, I think it's time to tell them about the vape.
What? No.
Kate,
I just joined the Holy Smokes Club.
Yeah. Tell them.
Which is a real thing. Our friend Kay actually started it. It's a cigar club.
Yeah, he started
Christian
like 20 years ago. I think
yeah.
they have like 15,000 men in it.
Yeah.
Some of the guys listening might have heard of it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's just informal male community where they smoke cigars and have whiskey on the back porch.
Very, very cool.
And
so,
Kate's part of it.
Yeah, I'm officially, never. But today we're talking about one of our most asked questions always, which is, can women show interest to a guy? So we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk about some lies about women approaching men. We're going to talk about some of the absolute best ways a girl can show interest. Before we dive in, just a few quick announcements.
Okay, well, we love matchmaking.
Yeah, we do.
Are we good at it?
We actually are decent, even though we're not at the moment professional matchmakers.
Define success, right? Well, we do live matchmaking, like think Christian version of the Bachelor, Bachelorette.
Or Love is Blind.
Right, or Love is Blind is very fun. It's kind of like a combo of that. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be part of it, join the Patreon.
You have to be in our Patreon community at the $5 tier to be a part of it. And you can actually watch it. It's super fun and entertaining to watch. So go to patreon.com/Heart of Dating.
Okay, Kate.
Yes.
At any point in your time in youth group, young adult ministry, you went to the porch, right?
I didn't live in Dallas when I was a young adult.
Okay.
I did, but I wasn't Christian enough for that.
Dang, man. Okay. The more you know about someone. At any point in your journey as a single woman, did you ever hear these phrases?
Okay.
Whoever finds a wife finds a good thing. Yes. And God will make your man find you.
God will make the man find you?
Yeah.
I heard the first part, but I didn't hear the second part.
Okay. So you never really heard the idea of God will make the man find you?
No.
Okay. What about this? Christian men should approach the women in church, and Christian women should wait until the man approaches you.
Used to hear that for sure.
Okay, so the man will find you.
Yes.
That's basically the same
it.
thing, okay? God will send you a husband when the time is right and also when you least expect it.
Oh, absolutely. All the time.
Okay, what else? Did you hear anything similar to that when you were?
I don't know if I heard other similar things, but I've definitely heard that. And that it's going to happen in the right time. Just wait on God, wait on God, wait on God. The man will come to you, and that whole wait on God situation.
Okay. Now, would you say, if you think about it, those are biblical?
He who finds a good wife finds a good thing. That is in the Bible.
Yes.
So that's in the Bible. That is literally biblical.
But what about the second half of it? Because that's kind of addressed to a guy. Okay, who finds a wife finds a good thing. So he's going to go out and start finding, right? Mm-hmm. And start searching. Mm-hmm. So what's the women's role? It's not a woman who finds a good husband has found a good thing. So women go out and start finding.
Right. I don't necessarily think the concept of a woman just waiting for the man to come to her is biblical. But then again, not much about dating and the process of dating is biblical.
Okay, that's a good point. So would you say, have women been lied to, maybe out of good intention, maybe out of Hallmark kind of style teaching?
Oh, yeah, I see.
You should just pursue God, pursue holiness, and in the meantime, wait. And it will happen when it happens.
Yeah, I think that has good intention, but I think it takes the fact of the matter that God wants us to participate in the story that is unfolding in our lives, he wants us to participate in that. So us just waiting and not doing anything as women is not us participating. Now, we might be praying, so that's something, but in terms of being a participant on the journey of, quote, finding love, you're not part of anything active if you're just sitting and waiting.
All right. So here, I guess my first question then is, what does participation mean?
Right. And what does waiting mean when the whole waiting on God? And
Yeah.
I really think that waiting on God is that you aren't going to force something to happen, meaning you're not just going to get married to the next person that you find because I'm going to make you marry me. Like, that's forcing something. And that's not necessarily waiting on God, because you're not including God in any part of that decision. I actually also think going against waiting on God is going too fast in a relationship and not actually listening to the Holy Spirit and pacing it well. I'm going to take it into my own hands, and I'm going to just make this whatever I want to make it because I'm infatuated and it feels good. And, let's just do this thing. I actually think that's against, quote, waiting on God, because waiting on God, I feel like, is a posture of your heart that I'm not going to settle for anything less than God's best. And I'm going to include him in the process, meaning seek him above all else in the process of dating. But what I don't think waiting means is that we are complacent and inactive, that we can't show a guy interest, that we don't put ourselves out there in any form or fashion. And so that's kind of, to me, the big difference on waiting on God.
So can women make it happen?
Women can show interest. Now, the question that you're saying, can they make it happen?
Right.
Kind of has a lot to it, because what do you mean by make it happen? Do you mean, can the woman ask a guy out?
Yeah.
Or are you saying, can the woman show a guy interest?
Right.
Which are two different things, in my opinion.
Okay. What would the difference be?
So one is, hey, I like you. Want to go on a date sometime? Can a woman do that?
That's showing interest and making it happen.
That is obviously showing interest, but it's also making it happen, taking the reins.
Right.
Versus showing interest is flirting with the guy, getting close to his proximity, making sure he knows you exist, being super clear, almost sometimes blatantly obvious that you're interested in him, which we can talk about some tools to do that.
It's kind of like the first half of that sentence of just saying, hey, I like you.
Right. It's like, but not the, will you go out with me?
But that's not making it happen, right?
It's not making it happen. It's just giving them a very big sign that if they asked you out, you would say yes.
Okay. And some people might be like, well, that's making it happen, right? Like, you're kind of taking some kind of step.
You're taking a step, yes, but you still have a massive possibility for rejection.
Yeah. I mean, you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think anytime you're doing that, one, it takes a lot of courage. Mm-hmm. But two, it's so funny that we talk about dating, not in the Bible, but we do see courtship. Mm-hmm. Like, we do see a romantic, I would say it's not really even romantic in the Bible. Tim Keller does such a good job of recapping basically research, and all the historians and all the theologians basically agree on one thing when it comes to marriage. There's throughout all of human history, there's been basically two designs of marriage as far as what humans have done. One is the traditional Eastern kind of marital view and what marriage is for. Yeah. And one is the kind of newer individual Western view on marriage.
Okay.
So when we say romance in the Bible, that it's just kind of a weird term to use. Like, we see romance in Song of Solomon's degree.
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna say, yeah.
What even is romance? Like, how do we define that?
Yeah.
Right. But like marriage in ancient Hebrew and Greek times was very different. Right. It was for class. It was for economic stature. It was to advance your life. It was to reproduce. And that was it.
Or for like political means.
Right.
Like, hey, seems like a strategic partnership.
The idea of passion and romance didn't exist in marriage.
Yeah.
Because you just get a mistress.
Mm-hmm.
That's where,
right.
Yeah, marriage is for this, clearly reproducing, not happiness or fulfillment. That's why I have, a mistress on the side. That's where I get my passion, my romance, Right. So it is funny because I think where we're at in dating is definitely on the Western, but women kind of want that passionate, romantic, sensual relationship, right?
Yes.
So how do we kind of...
I mean, I'm a romantic junkie.
Oh, yeah. We know that for sure. Okay, so let's make this simple. Okay, let's make it very simple. Kait, are there any biblical examples of women showing proactive interest to quote unquote make it happen?
Right, because everyone's like, well, let's look at the Bible. And though we don't have examples of dating, there are some examples of things that we can use in modern day. So one example, I think everyone knows this, but if you don't, maybe you should read this small book in the Bible. It's called Ruth. Ruth showed very clear pursuit and or desire for Boaz. I mean, she laid at his feet and basically, which was almost like a proposal. I mean, that's kind of wild.
Yeah. Well,
That's very crazy for the time.
Fun fact, she didn't just do it randomly either. Mm-hmm. Naomi told her to do it.
Right.
Yeah, is that funny?
Yeah. No, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
And then apparently, so this also was not common, right?
Yeah, very uncommon.
I just found out they were family, Ruth and Boaz, through marriage. So like think about like cousins-in-law through marriage.
Wonderful.
I know, but I mean like through marriage, right? So that no blood relation. And Ruth was a widow.
Yes, I knew that.
Yeah. And so it was actually Boaz's duty in Hebrew culture, and what was common in Hebrew culture is to marry your brother-in-law or your cousins-in-law. Because
very interesting. Right. That makes sense.
So it is a really interesting story, but you're saying though, Ruth still had to decide whether or not she should lay at his feet.
Yeah. I mean, she took very bold actions, which... And when anyone asks me, can a girl show a guy interest? I mean, the easiest example to point to is Ruth, because she very much showed interest.
Yeah, she didn't have a conversation about it, right?
Yeah.
She went like above and beyond with action.
Yeah, action.
Right? So if girls are listening, are you saying break into the house of your church crush and make a sleeping bag?
Yeah, if you want to get arrested. No, we'll talk about the practicals of what it looks like to show interest maybe at the end of
Yeah. There was also Esther.
Yeah.
Right? That one was even more crazy.
Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, didn't she like uninvitedly walked into the throne room of Xerxes? Which Alec and Maddie, shout out to Alec and Maddie.
Yeah, Out of the Shallows podcast.
Really fun. I mean, like super inspiring, really fun. They're going through Esther right now. So I'm learning a lot about King Xerxes.
Yes.
And I have seen the movie 300. Yes. I'll tell on myself. And I mean, the way they portray him in that movie is actually super accurate. He was literally a god king.
Yeah.
So she wasn't, a lot of people just say she was just beautiful and he picked her because she was beautiful. She put her literally life on the line to step up. And it wasn't so that she would get married. It was to save her people, but inadvertently put herself.
She still put herself like in a courageous situation in front of King Xerxes, in front of a king. So not exactly an example of her showing him romantic interest or whatever, interest to marry him, but showing very clearly, hey, I'm here and I'm available for X.
Yeah, I mean, there's vulnerability and exposing yourself to rejection, putting yourself out there.
Yeah. That's
vulnerability. There's another level of vulnerability that comes with putting your life, like you're exposing your life.
Yeah.
Like she absolutely easily could have died.
Right.
In that situation. And
like, sorry, Esther, what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean,
get out of here, girl.
And both of those examples, just amazing amounts of courage.
Yeah. Lots of courage, which means showing a guy interest does take a lot of courage. And in a moment, I want to read some of the fears that people have on why they don't show guys interest, because I took a poll.
Oh, that would be so fun to read. Well, there's one more biblical example.
Okay.
That no one ever thinks of.
What is that?
This one's so fun. It's Tamar. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Tamar.
Judah's daughter-in-law. So, hail, line of Judah, 12 tribes of Judah, that Judah, okay. Her husband died as well. Very similar to Ruth, very similar situation. And he had an obligation to provide her with a brother-in-law or a son as a new husband to preserve the lineage of the son that died. Okay. He didn't.
Good job, Judah.
I know. You don't really hear about these stories.
Lion of Judah who failed.
To protect this, seriously, this very vulnerable
widow.
widow.
Tamar.
Do you know what she did?
What did she do?
This is so crazy. I don't know if you knew this. She disguised herself as a prostitute and approached Judah and got pregnant by him.
Okay, then. I think I did know that, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that not wild?
Yeah. But are we telling everybody to go so far as to just sleep with their in-law?
No, we're not. But I think it's a very controversial example in the Bible of, obviously, that's where the Bible, I think, is so fun to read in the sense of it's maybe not prescriptive of go lay at the feet of the guy you're interested, go dress up as a prostitute and seduce the man that you're interested in, right? But it is showing women, and God also used that, by the way, to continue the bloodline through which Jesus was literally born. Yeah. So whether it was a mistake or not, I do think, and I obviously think Tamar was a great example of proaction in the wrong way.
Yeah.
But there's also proaction and vulnerability in the best way.
Yeah.
Esther, Ruth, and where women... it just totally culturally changes back and forth. There's just throughout time and human history. But what you're saying and what we're saying is when it comes to women showing interest, it's not kind of yes, softly. It's absolutely there's a time and place to put
interest.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we've now gotten to that point and biblically shown you guys like how and why there is biblical grounds to show a man interest. I think the next part we have to go into is, okay, how do I do it? But before we do that, let's address maybe some of the fears that women have around showing a guy interest.
My question would be why? Like if we now know it's okay, it's legal, you're not going to get in trouble. Why won't women do it?
Yeah. All right, let's hear it from the ladies themselves, from my Instagram. I asked them specifically, why are you hesitant about showing a guy interest? Okay. So here are some of their responses. Okay. I'm scared of rejection or to be laughed at if they're not interested. So that's rejection. Afraid of being ashamed. Another person says, I have anxiety. Another person says, fear of coming off too strong or seeming desperate. That one I think is very common. Wanting the man to pursue. Okay, let's talk about that. Caveat that in a second, or bookmark that. Don't want to ruin a friendship. Okay. There's rejection again, rejection. I haven't found a guy I'm actually interested in. We have to address that separately. Scared to get hurt. Rejection sucks. Somebody said, I've been told I'm too much and I don't want to come off as desperate.
Okay. I think we have a good pulse,
I don't want
to
seem desperate. Don't want to seem desperate, want the man to pursue, and I'm afraid of rejection. Probably the three common things
or
I'm
ruin a
seeing
friendship,
here.
right?
Or ruining a friendship, and there's like tons. There's obviously
oh my goodness,
hundreds of responses to this. But if we could encapsulate it, fear of rejection, fear of seeming desperate, wanting a traditional pursuit from a man and fearing that this won't let that happen, and maybe don't want to ruin a friendship. Okay, so let's talk about this.
Can I put the girls on blast?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I know they're not going to like it, but I feel like if girls who are frustrated ask why are guys not asking us out, and they read that list, which would be the exact, isn't that funny? That would be the exact same list that guys would send.
Yeah, they don't want to ruin a friendship. Rejection is number one for a guy. 100%.
But I feel like you might find times where girls are like, get over it. Or,
Yeah, exactly. But they can't get over it to show a guy interest.
Right. It's just funny to me that I do feel like it is a little bit of a double standard.
Yeah.
You guys should get over it, but we don't have to.
Yes. And then some people are also saying, I just don't know how. Yeah. So that's another part of it. So rejection, man, let's just talk about that fear of rejection. I could go on and on. If you guys don't know, I did write a book on rejection called Thank you for rejecting me. So shout out, maybe go check out the book. I will shamelessly plug that because I did really spend a lot of time and heart putting so much into that book. Rejection is inevitable. Every person on the planet faces it. Nobody is invincible to rejection. It is how we respond in the wake of rejection. And usually the reason why rejection hurts so bad is it brings up a lie that we believe about ourselves. And so we have to really face that lie separately, or else rejection in any capacity, dating or otherwise, is going to start defining our worth. And so we have to be able to identify what is the lie that we believe in the face of rejection. And then how do I start rewriting that lie right now? And that's what we help people do in our program, School of Dating. But rejection is inevitable. And, you know, ladies, I totally hear you, but there is a way that you can experience rejection so that it pricks you instead of taking you down. Like, rejection is never going to feel amazing. It's never going to be like, haha, well, I love that. I love being rejected. I'm not necessarily saying that's the goal to get to that place, but you can get to a place where you get rejected and you're like, oh, okay, I don't really love that, but I'm still okay. And I still have hope and I'm still going to move forward. And where I see a lot of people get stuck is they get rejected. They put so much weight in putting themselves out there, or for guys, making the ask and asking somebody out. And then they're like, oh my gosh, I'm giving this person the power to either affirm my worth and identity or slash down my worth and identity. And when you do that, you are in a very troublesome place. So you do have to work through the fears of rejection before you ideally, guys, ask a girl out, or ladies, show a guy interest, because rejection is always a possibility. It's always a possibility. It will always be a possibility in multiple areas of your life. And even in a relationship, rejection is still possible. Breakup is still possible. Even an engagement. Okay. And so it's really important to work through those lies of rejection as much as you can up front. I talk way more about that, and thank you for rejecting me. But let's talk about also the don't want to seem desperate energy.
Totally.
And so
the pick me girl.
Yeah, I don't want to, and I get it. Like, if you need this person to say yes to affirm your worth, you are going to come off as a pick me girl. Pick me, pick me, pick me. Because if you don't pick me, I am going to question everything about myself, and it's going to leave me in shambles. And the guy can feel that energetically when you come and show him interest.
Yeah, I think that's like, it's kind of amazing how as humans, if someone is insecure, and I don't mean this in a condescending way, but if someone's insecure and they're coming to you, and you can almost feel the weight of the neediness of your approval.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Totally. You can feel it.
Like, you can feel it from a guy's perspective when he's really coming on hard.
Yeah.
And you can almost sense, like, right away, like, oh, wow, he really needs me to say yes for, like, his self-esteem.
Right. Absolutely. And so desperation, like, why is it desperate to engage in the story that God is creating and show somebody interest? Why is that desperate if you want to get married one day?
Yeah.
I always think that's so interesting. People say the same thing about getting on a dating app. It's so desperate to do that. It's desperate for me to show a guy interest. Okay. I mean, but what's worse is you're not willing to show a guy interest and you're complaining about the lack of guys.
Exactly.
And how nobody's asking you out.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, that to me is so much worse. But it's only desperate if you're giving the pick me girl energy of like, this person needs to choose me. If you are confident in where you are, whether or not this person is interested and ends up asking you out, it is not desperate. In fact, it can be very empowering to show somebody interest.
Yeah, that one could stem out of I'm more scared to be rejected and put myself out there than I'm really more scared to be desperate.
Right.
And the desperate energy, I'm also curious what you think about that. Is that truly desperation because you want someone, or is it more desperation out of lack of identity? And I think
it could be one or the other, or both, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah. You can only discern that individually.
Okay, what about fear of ruining a friendship?
Yeah, that's a big one. And I mean, we could have a whole podcast on that, which we are going to cover friendationships at some point in this series. But Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to ruin a friendship to show somebody interest. It ruins a friendship if you have spent months and months and months, even a year, liking this person without showing them or indicating to them that you like them, and you built up this whole fantasy of them in your mind.
Yeah.
And then you finally work up the courage to tell them, and they're like, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Then it can ruin a friendship because you now are grieving an entire
fantasy,
false relationship that you had.
Seriously.
I saw this happen to somebody that I knew years ago.
I mean, I've done that.
And that is where you will ruin a friendship, but it's not ruining a friendship if you're close friends with someone or friends with them and you show them interest, because it's only weird if you make it weird. Okay. If you then next time you see them completely avoid them, then that's weird. And now you're ruining the friendship because now you were acting really strange after the fact. So it doesn't have to, and usually that's because they're still coping with the rejection and somehow they think, oh, they don't like me. So then you can't be around them the same way, which I still think comes back to how they're dealing with rejection.
Yeah.
Because then I can't be in the same room with them because that's so awkward because they rejected me. Or maybe it's not so awkward if you know who you are, you know that the rejection doesn't define you, and therefore it's okay if they're not interested in you because that does not take away from your worth and your value.
Okay, what about this? If you have a healthy friendship, does expressing interest, does that automatically guarantee that'll ruin the friendship? And then second is, say you have a healthy friendship, you express interest and you guys date, is that also guaranteed to ruin the friendship?
I don't know if it's going to ruin the friendship. It all depends on how it goes. like if you have healthy communication or non-healthy communication and how you leave each other better than you found them. Like it's always a risk. It's always a risk. But if you don't take the risk, you will never know. And we always say that friendship is the best basis for building a relationship on. So if you have a friend, you should consider maybe showing them interest or guys asking them out.
Okay.
We did a whole episode on that.
Yeah, we did. I'm such a big fan of dating your friend, but let's just stick to this. And so if I'm a girl, what would you say are your top 3 ways for me to show interest?
Right.
Like, what are your 3 favorite ways?
All right. Well, let's talk about dropping the hanky. It's an old Victorian term where, back in the day, ladies didn't have much say on which guys they got to talk to. So at a ball, they would take their handkerchief, make eyes with the guy they wanted to speak to, drop their handkerchief, like as if it was an accident. The guy would come over, pick up the handkerchief, and then it would start a conversation. So she would drop the hanky to get in his vicinity to start a conversation. So how do you modern day drop the hanky? First of all, you have to get in his proximity. Does he even know you exist? Okay? Because if you're just making eyes at him across the room, he has no idea that you exist. Maybe you've stalked him on Instagram. That does not mean he knows you exist. Even sending him a fire emoji on Instagram doesn't mean he knows that you're interested. Get in his proximity. Make it very obvious that you want to be around him. So at church, for example, and this is obviously in-person examples, you're going to make it a habit that anytime you're in the same vicinity as them, you're going to try and talk with them. And you're going to also in that, the second part would be body language. You have to be obvious with your body language. If you are so not confident in yourself, you're going to be crossing your arms. You're going to be looking away and avoiding eye contact. You're going to be fiddling with your with your phone or your purse. And you're going to be so intimidated. If you're not exuding any sort of confidence, then you're going to have a really hard time doing this. So you have to go in feeling confident. And with your body language, you need to lean in. You need to show a smile. You need to be focused, have eye contact with this guy. You can playfully, just touch his arm a little bit, not awkwardly, but he says something funny and you lean in, you laugh and you touch his arm for a few seconds, not just a hot plate for 1 second, but maybe a few seconds. So the body language is super important. And then the last way, biggest thing, be insanely obvious and maybe tell him you like him. Here's what you can do. You could say something along the lines of, I would totally go out with a guy like you. Smile. And then he's like, oh my gosh. Okay. The other way to make it very obvious is, if you ask me out, I would totally say yes. Okay. Third way to make it very obvious is send a friend, send a birdie, send a messenger over and have that wing woman of yours communicate very loud and clear would you ever be interested in Kait? I just saw you guys talking and, no, I'm liking that kind of the vibe over there. And I don't know. Honestly, I think that she would probably say yes if you asked her out.
Yeah, I think that's a great way.
Like, do those three things. Get in his proximity, very clearly show through your body language. And that may take some practice, ladies. I get it. And third, make it super obvious. If he's still not picking up the cues, you got to make it obvious and literally do one of those three things I just said.
So good. All right, Kait. So to close out, because I've heard this one before, and I think it's an awesome one to end on. Is it manipulative though to express interest and show interest? Am I not making it happen, but I'm kind of making it happen?
I think it's more manipulative to just not be honest and like sit there and wait and then talk badly about the guy or push a fantasy in your mind about this guy. And just, I don't know. Like, I think that's even worse. I don't know if it's manipulative, but I think that's way worse. I don't think it's manipulative to show a guy interest because you're not guaranteed a result.
Yeah. And
you're not forcing him to ask you out. You're not like gun pointed at him being like, hey, I like you. And, if you ask me out, I would totally say yes, pointing at him.
And you're also not running like a covert secret service while they're in hot water, a covert CIA operation, right, to get him to ask you out.
Right. I mean, exactly. And
like you're being honest.
Yeah. The reason why we do this, ladies, is because any guy will tell you most of them are clueless and have no idea. So you need to throw them a bone. And so if you don't throw them a bone, they may never ask you out. And you're going to sit there and be frustrated and keep saying guys don't ask girls out when maybe you're not even letting the guys know that you're interested in them. And they fear rejection just as much as you do.
Yeah.
So make it as easy as possible for them.
Yeah.
We should come alongside our brothers. If you fear rejection a lot, so do these guys. And we need to stop saying, well, guys, get over it. Like, okay, well, then why don't you get over it, right? Throw him a bone and make it super obvious for him that you are open to him asking you out.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and biblically, those examples we read, the truth of them, especially in Boaz, is some of these men were neglecting their responsibility.
Right.
Some of these men were walking in passiveness, but that didn't stop the woman from showing interest.
Right.
Or stepping in and having courage.
All right, guys. Yes, you can show a guy interest. You should. And simultaneously work on your issues of rejection, work on your confidence. You can do this. But no more excuses for just sitting back and having a crush and waiting for him to make it happen. Okay, you're not asking him out. You're just opening the door and seeing if he'll walk through it. All right, hope that helped. The Heart of Dating podcast is created by Kait and JJ Tomlin. Shout out to our epic audio and video editor, Scott Caro. We have an amazing Heart of Dating team who helps bring the show to you each week. I want to shout out Kelsey Napier, our Heart of Dating digital marketing coordinator, and Elena Gibson, our brand and community manager. We couldn't do it without them. Now, if you guys have never ranked us or reviewed us on iTunes or Spotify, would you consider doing that? It would mean so much because our podcast can get more discovered and more people can learn how to better date as Christians. Don't we all want that? We launch our podcast each and every week on Wednesdays, so we will see you next week.